Well, good afternoon on another beautiful week here. We've had some rain, we've had some wind. The last couple of days have been definitely interesting. We've seen Minnesota, for the most part, show its true colors here, from being warm and stagnant to tons of rain, some wind, some cooler temperatures. You know what? This entire open water season has been back and forth. We've seen everything from 105 degrees sweltering heat to waking up in the morning in the broad time of summer in the 40s, where you need pants and sweatshirts and jackets. You know what? It's hard to know what you're going to get thrown at you, and that's been what the fishing's been like too. It's been up and down, it's been unstable, they've been changing patterns. These fish have kept us on our toes the entire summer. I've been struggling to find solid consistency anywhere I go. It almost feels like I'm learning how to catch them every single day you hit the water, and it's been that way this entire week too. We've had to chase them down. We've been everywhere from Gull Lake up near Brainerd, down on the Minnetonka a bunch of times, out to the Northeast Metro in the Chisago area, and we've caught fish a variety of ways. It's been a lot of fun because you can just go fishing and generally catch something. And we've pinpointed some bigger fish patterns. We're going to show you some ways that we're catching them and talk about some things we've seen as we've adapted for this unstable summer, in my opinion. That's probably the best way to put it. Unstable meaning lack of consistency. It's been all over the place. The second you feel like you're in a zone, the second you feel like you're onto something and maybe you cracked the code, bang, they slap you across the face and you kind of just scratch your head and go, okay, back to the playbook. So for starters, we've continued to catch fish. The one consistency part of this is probably the jig worm, the drop shot. That approach, that fishing the 12 to 16 foot range. We've continually talked about that over the last month or two, and that has been, for the most part, consistent. The inconsistent part about that pattern is finding bigger fish and finding schooling fish, but that continues to put fish in the boat. If I had to tell you one way in terms of bass fishing to go out there right now in the Twin Cities and catch fish, it would be to grab a jig worm or a drop shot and get out in that 18 to 22 foot range where your boat is positioned and cast in up into those weeds. I'm not telling you to cast up into 6, 7, 8 feet of water anymore. I'm telling you to cast in that immediate weed line, which is generally, depending on the lake, 12 to 16 feet. We have struggled to get phenomenal bites out deep this year. I should be talking to you right now about 21, 23, 26 feet of water, coon tail, schooling fish, rocks, hard bottom transitions. That's what we should be talking about, but we're not. We're talking about immediate weed line stuff, and I think the fish are going to stay there the rest of the summer and into the fall. Immediate weed line stuff, 12 to 16 feet is that target zone. You should be pulling your jig worm or drop shot through the weeds like that, or you're not getting bit. That has been consistently where the fish are. That is where we found our bigger fish. That jig worm drop shot, power drop shot bite continues to produce fish, and you're continuing to see a lot of the guides and everyday anglers here in the area fish that way. So drop shot, jig worm, and jig worm continue to use that mighty head from all terrain. You can use a variety of different options. I continue to fish that chartreuse color. We've talked about it with anglers here in the last couple weeks, how it's been night and day different in the metro, that chartreuse jig head. You can use green pumpkin. I got schooled the other day. Actually, Kyle Austin here on Wednesday on the Rapid Marine deal, he was in my boat. He caught some big fish on a green pumpkin jig head fishing a Ned rig. Same concept, jig worm Ned rig. And I was fishing chartreuse, and he definitely caught some of the bigger fish that day. So sometimes going back to natural works, but I've seen the chartreuse head for me outfish everything, generally speaking, the last few years. So jig worm drop shot, 12 to 16 feet of water. One thing I've seen work well in the last few days as well, last week, that I've been kind of starting to crack the code on, we'll see. Like I said earlier, you never know, it's always been inconsistent, is deep breaks. Deep breaks, just like I'm walleye fishing. So I generally look for walleyes on these steep breaks. I look at my Navionics chip, I look for lots of dark black lines in one area where it drops quick. And if I can find weeds right on that edge, we've got our bigger bites there this whole week. We got our bigger bites there on gull, We've gotten our bigger bites there on Minnetonka. So these deeper, I don't want to say ledge fishing, but just deep breaks. Look at your Navionics map. If you got a bay that's been kicking out fish for you, look to where the contours are the tightest. And oftentimes right up against those weeds where it's the tightest has been where our bigger fish have come. So pay attention to some of that stuff. Not all weed lines are equal. They're not all created equal. They're not, fish aren't on every weed line. So find abnormal spots. Abnormalities? Yeah, abnormalities, sure. Abnormal spots. And that seems to be where the bigger fish have been for us this last week. Like I said, it was consistent on gull. We hit 3 spots on gull, and those were clearing away our bigger fish spots. And I'm in Minnetonka this week. I've done the same thing just to see if I can just distinguish a pattern. And again, our bigger fish came on these steeper, deep edge weed lines. I'm still fishing 12 to 16 feet. So that's the catch. Just because it's deep, my boat might be in 25 to 35 feet of water. I'm still casting into 12 to 16 feet. That's still the key. But look at some of these steeper break lines and see if you catch fish. Another way we've been catching fish lately is flipping, punching. We've heard that term a lot, and I still get questions regularly on what do you mean by that? How do you flip? How do you punch? What do you look for? What are you using? So flipping or punching is really a design to be an approach where you fish a heavier presentation and flip or punch through weeds. So the milfoil bite, main lake weeds, cabbage grass, you're flipping baits and letting it shoot through the weeds to get down to where the fish are. And generally speaking, I'm shallower than 12 to 16 feet. I'm fishing 5 to 10 feet when I'm punching or flipping. And I'm using a heavy jig like the Grassmaster from All Terrain. You can see it's got a lot of meat to it. This is a 3/4 ounce. I'll use a 1 ounce or even a 1 1/4 ounce jig when I'm flipping. I flip that jig up. You can see it's like a bullet. I flip that jig up and I want it to shoot right through those weeds. And when I let it shoot through those weeds, I let it hit the bottom and I shake that rod. I'm working that rod tip. So I flip it in there and I'm just shaking it a couple times to see if there's a bite. And I'm reeling it up and I'm flipping it again another spot. And a lot of times they hit it either directly on the immediate fall, or a lot of times for me, it's on the bottom. I shake it a little bit. I feel that weight and you just feel some movement. The fish is picking it up and they're moving away through the weeds with it. They're not really just crushing it like you would, let's say, a moving bait or even a jig worm. They're not really doing that. They're just kind of coming up onto it, taking it in, and moving away. And I'm using a heavier braid, a 30 or 40 pound test braid, and I got a 17 pound fluorocarbon leader on here. And I can fish this same setup. This is a 7.5 foot heavy action rod. And you want that heavier rod so you have the power to horse them out of that junk. And like I said, I'll flip a Grassmaster with a crawbait on the back, or I will Texas rig a weedless plastic, whether it's a craw tube, a flipping out, a buzz bug, something creature driven with a little bit of profile. And I'll show you how I'm fishing this Texas rig. This has been how I've fished these flipping options the last week or two. And I'll show you the presentation here quick. So I'm just fishing, you can see it there. Just a Texas rigged plastic. And how am I doing this? I'll show you exactly how. So for starters, we'll re-rig this entire plastic for you. So I start by sliding on, I don't know if you can see that, a rubber stopper, just like a bobber stop. I slide that on my line first. That's the first thing to go on. And then I take my flipping weight. I'm using a 3/4 ounce tungsten flipping weight. And you can see that bobber stop there. It stops wherever that stop is slid to. And I'm using a 3/4 ounce. You could use a 1 ounce, whatever. I'm using a 3/4 ounce flipping weight. And then I'm tying my, whatever your favorite worm hook is. I'm using a Trocar flipping hook here. It's got that, I don't know if you can see it on the camera there. It's got that plastic holder, that little black knob there. When I slide my tube or bait or flipping bait up on there, it holds it in place nice. And I'll show you why that's important. So I got my rubber stopper, my flipping weight, and my Texas rig weight. And what I do with that rubber stopper is I actually slide that all the way down, and I want that weight to be pegged, to be positioned. So that is how I'm gonna fish it, just like this. And now we'll rig this bait up. And for visual purposes, I just got a craw tube from Juice. There's all kinds of brands out there that make them. This one is probably the easiest to see on camera. I'm rigging this up. I'm just nip hooking it on there, sliding it all the way up. And now this is where this little plastics thing, now they push it up over the top of that and it holds it in place really good. That thing can't come off. And then all I'm doing is putting this hook right through the bottom base and up through the center. Now I have myself a weedless flipping presentation. Now I got a 3/4 ounce flipping bait that I can throw right into some of the nastiest cover, the nastiest milfoil, the nastiest grass, lily pads, dock lines. I can flip this right into that stuff, and I'm fishing it just like I showed you with that Grassmasters. I'm flipping it into different cover. I'm looking for weeds, thickest weeds, maybe pockets, back sides of these weeds, letting it hit the bottom. I'm giving it a couple shakes. If a fish is gonna bite it, generally they hit it at that point. Then I might reel up and do it again. And I'm not casting this. I'm flipping, I'm pitching this. A lot of guys and gals think they wanna cast it. No. You can catch a fish 10 feet from your boat when you're in the jungle. So I'll flip it into pockets. I'm visually looking. I'm using my relevant sunglasses to see where I want to cast. And I'm visually and slowly meandering through these weed spots with my trolling motor and looking for places to cast. So that's really what I'm doing to flip or pitch. And that has got us some big bites lately. And I think, that could be another option for you guys or gals that are out there tournament fishing, trying to get big fish. I haven't turned to flipping a ton on my guide trips because it's a little tougher with multiple people in the boat fishing a small area. But if you're trying to do the tournament scene or going for a big bite, I would try flipping or pitching, depending on how you specify it, to get a bigger bite. And it's a fun way to fish this time of year. You know when there's a fish, you can reel up and buckle down on one and set the hook and bring it home, so it's really fun as well. So those continue to be the two predominant ways we catch fish. You can certainly throw a frog. We've seen some big fish take a frog. You can continue to skip docks, pitch docks. That's continued to bring big fish into the boat. For me, you're going to see me have jig worms or drop shots in my clients' hands this entire week ahead of us, and maybe flipping a little bit. I might be flipping off a certain spot or covering some different area, different ground, but those predominantly have been our 1-2 punch, no pun intended, on how we're getting our bass to bite and how we're getting our fish in the boat right now. The pike are all over the place. I did answer some questions in the last day or two about pike fishing. If you want to catch pike right now, grab a crankbait, grab a DT10, grab a DT16, get in some of these same spots, maybe back off a hair and just cover water with a bright colored crankbait. The pike are eating that. It can be fun. It can provide a lot of action, be a good time in the boat. Haven't really done the walleye thing at all this last week. I would have no idea where to turn. We caught a couple in the last week, clearly by accident, jigworm fishing, so I haven't been dialed on that. Bluegills, crappies, I can see those. They are on the outside weed lines. If you want to catch panfish, you can certainly do that. Same spot where bass fishing, I'm seeing these pods of bait fish swimming around, and some of them are nice bluegills, and I know that because we're catching some of these bluegills on our jigworms and drop shots. They are eating the jigworm and the drop shot, and they are nicer sized fish. So if you want to slow down and chase panfish and maybe bring some home for dinner, you can fish these same spots we've talked about, 12 to 16 feet. Look for the bait fish on your electronics, and then just downsize. Get your panfish gear out and chase them, and you'll catch them as well. So good time of year to get out fishing. We are approaching the second week of August. Yeah, I think we're going to see some 90s this week. The weatherman says maybe 90, so it's going to be a warm, sticky week. Maybe some more rain. We've got some rain here the last couple days. It's been awesome. We need it. But hopefully we see some continued rain on and off here the next few weeks to get our lakes looking somewhat healthy. We got a long ways to go, but plan to get out, chase down some more fish this week. I'll probably be doing some more Lake Minnetonka. Going to try some stuff in the East Metro, see if we can stumble across a big fish bite and see what happens. So get out there, chase down some fish, have some fun. Vikings preseason kicked off earlier today. Didn't get a chance to watch it. And we also have a lot of things happening around the state coming up soon with the Minnesota State Fair in a few weeks. So that's going to happen. Excited for that. I'll be there with Clam Outdoors in the big booth. So there you have it. Middle of August. Here we go. Summer dog days continue to grind away. Get the jigworm out. Try the flipping. Stay moving. Put the miles on. Bring the water. Wear the blackfish. And have a good time on the water. Good luck out there.